most popular questions I always get asked as a person who creates Sims content is, what custom content do you use to get your Sims looking the way that you do? And I have to say, 2023 was actually a very extremely rare year where I actually didn't download that much custom content, which is so strange for me. Usually I am so on it with custom content to the point where my game is probably crying and screaming, being like, please don't add any more. However, I feel like the pieces that I did add in 2023 have, one, become a staple very, very quickly that I could not live without, and two, were kind of diamonds in this sea of custom content of stuff that I actually personally feel is really missing from the game officially. So today I figured, why not go through the custom content that I know I'm never going to replace. I mean, some of these things I literally had in my game for like the last 5 years. I am bringing the receipts. They have my back every single time. I did feel like I really had to talk about my genetics of the game because they truly are the base of any sim that I create. I use the Souk Eyes version 2 by squeamishsims. I will say I like the darker colors, like the really, really deep browns, more than the lighter colors, just because I think Souk does brown eyes so well, which is kind of why I have a tendency to favor brown-eyed sims. Maybe I just don't want them giving me the blue-eyed stare. And then my default skin blend, this is what my sims are wearing literally all of the time as I hop in to create a sim. Automatically added to every single sim in your save file. It's added to every single sim that you will ever create in Create a Sim. You can't remove this, that is why it is a default, but I just think it looks similar to EA's, but it just kind of has a sort of like blushed out effect. Blur? I don't know what you would call it. It just makes your sims look a little bit more smoother, which I absolutely love about the Sunrise default skin blend by Angie. Now I want to throw it out there, I cannot be held accountable for those of you who download this version because I personally haven't played with it. I never want to run the risk of losing Sunrise, so I just literally never delete it from my custom content. Also, I know that my sims are going to look different without it, and yes, I lean on it the way that American women are currently leaning on Stanley Cups. However, you can try Seafarer. It's again by Angie. I'm going to have all of these linked down below and just see which ones that you prefer. And then I usually paste an overlay over the top of my sims, so I'm still getting that really like smoothed out version. I can't even explain what keeps me going back to Oooh Smooth 2, but again, I just can never remove it from my game. Moving on to the stuff that is like a little less default. It's a little less about like how your sims actually look in their little details, and then adding personalization to them. Johnnysimmer. I mean, you are living under a rock if you've never heard of Johnnysimmer. This is technically still Maxis Match, but it's leaning more towards like an alpha texture. However, I still use an awful lot of these. He also does hair conversions for infants. He also does hair conversions for children, which is also why I get an awful lot of use out of most of these hairs. The Maurice hair has been a personal favorite of mine. If you have watched any of my Globetrotter challenge, you would have seen my sim sporting this. But my sims throughout the year have probably sported an awful lot of these hairstyles because I just love the way they look, especially the curly textures. I don't know what it is about Johnny, but just absolutely slays the curly textures. And just look at how much choice you have. I mean, you could literally spend hours just downloading custom content. And who doesn't get a kick out of that? It's like free shopping. Apparently, I just really said justice for my masculine sims this year when it came to downloading custom content. I do think a lot of that has to do with my townie makeovers and how invested I have been. Obviously, when you have the same assets to use over and over again, and I will say I have leaned on some beards very, very heavily. Never thought I would need a beard. My game just desperately needed some mixing up when it came to facial hair, and Golyhawhaw has been one of the absolute stars in the sky when it comes to that. If you want Arthur Morgan-esque sims in your game, go and download literally every facial hair that Golyhawhaw has ever put out. I feel like I actually just gave away one of my secrets to create a sim. This is how I get you thirsting after all of my sims. Yeah, again, another bearded legend. We have Igor. This page just absolutely speaks for itself. Again, if you need variety when it comes to facial hair within The Sims 4, just go to Igor's page and you will find literally so many. I think I have majority of these. It's wild to me how much I actually use facial hair now, which is something I never really did when I was just using EA facial hair. I will say I would still love to see more representation when it came to afro textured on facial hair. However, Igor has actually gone ahead and taken some of the EA stuff and then just made it like a little bit neater, changed up like the size and shape of the beard every so often. Igor, truly thank you for carrying my creator sim this year. Wistfulcastle is another creator like Josh that tends to use a lot of stranding in their hairs, and the only reason I point that out is obviously you are used to seeing maxis match within my game, so I don't want you going to download these hairs and then being like, oh, these are more alpha, because technically I would still class them as maxis match. It's just that they have like a little bit more detail to them. I actually really like strand versions. Usually if creators give me an option between a strand version and a non-stranded version, I use the stranded version way more frequently just because I like the little messiness to it. I like the way that it looks slightly more realistic. I recently used this Anakin one on little Sylvester. If you are watching my Nightmare Legacy challenge, I mean, really did live up to the Anakin vibes. Also takes inspiration from Stardew Valley, so I know this is going to make so many of you little farming sim people happy. We have Dr. Harvey over here as well. Absolutely flipping love this hair, even though I will say I am slightly over like the shorter wavy hairs. I really did say justice for masculine sims when it came to the custom content that I hunted down. I feel like masculine sims and also kid sims were very heavily underrepresented within my creator sim catalog, so I really wanted to fill those out during 2023, and that's exactly what I did with the help of Nucrests. Usually it does like add-ons and these big assorted collections, like 22 new items for masculine frame sims. It kind of removes shirts from under things. If you have undershirts, then in your accessories, you can then mix and match to make them look better. They also take stuff that was traditionally made like by EA for feminine sims and apply them to masculine sims. I always say that add-ons are some of my favorite pieces of custom content because I've actually relied heavily on EA stuff this year. Like, I probably have used a lot more EA official assets this year than I ever have, which is kind of wild to say, but I do feel like Creator Sim just kind of gets better and better. I feel like right now we're in a really nice place with Creator Sim. It's just that I personally would like more of it, and that's probably why I enjoy these add-ons so much, because I'm like, yeah, I do use this stuff all the time, but a lot of the time I just wished it looked a little bit different, or I could add certain elements to it. And from this point forward, it's all about the kiddos. I think I was very much inspired by Growing Together, because I was like, right, if we're not getting more personality for our kids and more activities for them to do, even though now they can play marbles and they can also do hopscotch, but I really wanted to add some personality to these little dudes. And a lot of my hairstyles came from Naevys. I absolutely love Naevys's kids hairstyles. Basically, it converts an awful lot of custom content that is made for adults then into a kid's style. For Naevys's kids hairstyles as well, you actually don't need the meshes. So you don't actually need to download all of these hairstyles for adults to actually have them within your game for kids. Obviously, Sims 4 has kind of started doing this now. Like, we do get a lot of the adult heads that are introduced in new packs sized down. However, that also sometimes is a negative in my opinion, because it doesn't really feel like kids get hairstyles that feel like they are done by kids or that they were originally made for kids. Obviously, we did get the bowl cut, which then I know I complained that it wasn't available for adults, but I do feel like that one could have been made available for adults. There's some really cool custom content out there for kids that have like messy ponytails that are like uneven, and I think that's kind of the characteristic and the individuality and the kind of storytelling behind Creator Sim that The Sims 4 is actually missing for those younger ages. If you're looking for more alt styles when it comes to children, Cerberus absolutely has you covered. Now, this kind of blog has been deactivated. However, all of their downloads are actually available still on Google Drive. I know that when I first found Cerberus, I was absolutely obsessed with all the little baby mullets. Again, I felt like that was like hairstyles that we hadn't really got in The Sims 4. Even if it's the same kind of mesh and then just has like different detailing at the back, like a slightly longer mullet, I like having those alternative versions, and I feel like that's what Cerberus does really well. I read this as tired skirt, and that's what I am. Tired of kids not getting what they deserve in The Sims 4. However, Powluna is here to save the day. Look at that wonderful number, 75 Create a Sim assets for children. Again, some assets that feel very kiddish, that they are actually made for children. The Sims 4 loves a sad beige baby, and that's not to say I don't also enjoy one. Like, I obviously have a lot of this custom content. A lot of this custom content is sad beige baby vibes, but there's still some color thrown in there. I feel like this feels very, very realistic for children. I think also this just fits incredibly well. They look really natural in a Maxis Match game, and I bloody love them. This might go against everything that I've just said. I've never claimed to not be a hypocrite, okay? Is it being a hypocrite, or is it just growth? But Kiara Zurk actually takes a lot of the stuff that we get introduced for adult Sims and actually converts it to kid Sims. I would say if you're just looking to fill out your custom content and your wardrobe for children, you could go through the pages and pages of Kiara's work. There are 17 pages available, and just download all of this stuff. Obviously, because it is official assets, it already looks good within the game. Like, it already works with like all of the textures. We know how these outfits actually look on older Sims, and they don't feel really too much out of place when it comes to children. There's also stuff available for the boys. Unfortunately, not as much. We are still seeing the favoritism of feminine tag stuff, but I've already gone through so many masculine frame stuff. Let the girls have something. If you've been downloading custom content for this game for as long as I have, you've probably already heard of Madlen Sims. Madlen actually makes really incredible shoes for The Sims 4. I will say, again, slightly toes the line between Maxis Match and Alpha, and the only reason I really say that is because I feel like Madlen's clothes and shoes actually just have like a lot more depth and detail than like Maxis Match stuff usually does. Not from like other modders' perspectives, but like actually from the game perspective. Like, it just looks much higher quality, and I feel like sometimes that's the kind of difference between Maxis and Alpha. They don't really feel like kids' clothes a lot of the time. They definitely have more of like a business look to them, so I know that this may not be for everyone, but I do really, really love using Madlen stuff for formal wear specifically. They have some really cute little like full body outfits that are kind of like two-piece suits. I mean, if I actually wore dresses as a kid and didn't like cry and throw up at the thought whenever my mother suggested it, I probably would have worn an outfit like that. Whereas this, I would have been like, get me in that. Still to this day, I would be like, put me in that right now. I was the kid that used to wear jean shorts under my dress. Who says I can't wear my Converse? Very, very sick full body outfits is what I'm trying to say here. So there we have it. I'm very, very sorry. I would like to formally apologize to those of you who may have clicked on this video and was expecting just like a full list of feminine frame stuff. Even in my very limited downloads of 2023, I definitely feel like I figured out what was missing within my game, what I definitely needed more variety of, and that is pretty much it. It's kid stuff and then also stuff for masculine Sims. Not even really clothing. Like, I definitely have got to the point where I know I'm looking at myself and I'm like, you need to sort out your custom content folder. My mods folder is disgusting, just with how much stuff it has in it that I don't even really use anymore. But hopefully that was helpful, because I imagine if I feel like I'm missing all of this in my game, you're probably also thinking that you're missing it in your game. I might honestly do a dedicated video going over kids custom content, because I honestly really, really struggle to find custom content for the younger age groups in The Sims 4. Definitely let me know if you found your new favorite creator in here. Let me know what your little fingers have been downloading as you've been watching this video. I see you. I know you have like 50 tabs open right now. You can't hide that from me. Us Simmers, we're all the same. I appreciate you all so much. I also very much appreciate all of these creators. Thank you for being wonderful. Thank you for carrying my games on your back for the last few years. And I will speak to you all in my next one. Bye now. Tomboy realness jumped out. Did you know I was a tomboy? Bet you didn't know that about me. Internet's best kept secret.